speaker, Dr. Priyesh Tiwari, started his career as a medical graduate specializing in internal medicine. He moved on to eventually heading the Division of Community Health and Wellness Programs for one of the largest hospital chains in India. And his team there set up a telemedicine system that was one of the first to shift into handheld platforms and that catered to people earning less than $1 a day. It's pretty innovative stuff, and indeed the Harvard Business School and Harvard School of Public Health are jointly publishing a case study on this program as a model for global health. From those heights, for some reason, he then descended to doing a PhD at the University of Auckland. And he's now really just about rounded out that work. It's taking an action research cycle approach, and depending on how you count, it was about the results of action research cycle 4 that we're up to. It's in the context of a larger health robotics project, Robotics for Elder Care project, that's being run out of the Robotics Institute at our university. And without further ado, I welcome Priyesh to talk about comprehensive support for self-management medications by the elderly. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. One of the reasons why I'm here is because you sold me the robot idea. Good afternoon. As one of the third speaker in the row after lunch session, I'm also entrusted with the responsibility of keeping you awake for rest half an hour. So I hope you bear with me. To change the mood a little bit, I'll show you a video of the project instead of me talking a few minutes about it. So here it is. I think for some reason we don't have the sound. So here is, I'll give the sound. So here is one elderly gentleman, John, age 72, who probably lives either in a rest home or in a community setting, probably by himself, and he's being assisted by a healthcare robot. So this robot identifies him before the interaction and greets the user and prompts the user to check the vitals. So the clinicians, please don't look at the way blood pressure is being measured. It's just an animation. So it measures blood pressure, SpO2, temperature, and all this data is again packed in an envelope and sent over a secure network to a healthcare provider, most probably a nurse. So I have the in charge of the medical center here in the audience as well, where we conducted this research. And this robot also gives this person some cognitive exercises, we call as brain gym, so to stimulate the memory as it declines with the aging process. And as he is playing the games, he can also do a video conferencing, which makes it easy with a single touch of button to communicate with the doctor. And hopefully doctor has already had a look at the vitals that he sent earlier. But my paper, this paper, is specifically focused on this part of the Greater Robotics Project, which is about medications. And the data about medications is then again packaged and sent to the health information healthcare center, where it is collated over a period of time and a summary record for the month's performance is shown. And here there is some socialization functions. So as the statistics show us that by the time we reach 80 years of age, we'll be probably living alone. And the way to communicate with our children and grandchildren would be through a robot. And in case we fall down or something happens, there is some alert. This is the accelerometer worn on the wrists, which detects the fall, and this signal is detected by the robot, which again sends an emergency response. The idea came from the research that most of the people who wear the pendants, when they fall, actually 70% of them don't press the button. So the value of alert pendants is not fully realized. So this is the commercial bit. You can please ignore it. So this hopefully builds an image of the project that I'm a part of. And I must thank New Zealand Korean Center for Healthcare Robotics, which is an interdisciplinary collaborative project between Department of Health Science and Department of Computer Engineering in the University of Auckland. So the background of this research is, of course, the aging of populations. And as we age, there are multiple chronic conditions and comorbidities that occur. And also the practice of polypharmacy, which is prescription of 7 to 15 drugs on an average to a 65-year-old plus person. And often these pills are in complex regime, 2 one day, 1 next day, 2 other day, 1 tablet once in a week, 1 tablet twice in a week, 1 tablet on alternate days, and 1 tablet as and when you need it. So I'll find it difficult to manage it myself, so I'm wondering how a 65 or 70-year-old person manages it, but they do. And therefore, because of this cognitive burden and challenge, and there are a lot of other evidence showing that there's a lot of medication errors and adverse drug events happening in the elderly. And also this is one of the leading causes of hospitalization and transition to rest homes, because inability to manage medications is one of the major reasons why people are shifted to rest homes or dependency unit. So if somehow we can help people with medications, probably we can give them an year or 2 or even more, hopefully, so that they can live more independent life and they don't have to go to a rest home. And of course, as you all must have received this in your welcome package, the medication safety is one of the important directions in which the New Zealand health policy and especially quality improvement program is going towards. So how does this research fit into the bigger picture of healthcare scenario? So while we look for options, we looked at options of why should we have a robot? Why not give a caregiver who can personally supervise? The answer was that the healthcare workforce is shrinking, and increasing cost of personal care, and also shortage of caregivers, as most of the rest homes are complaining about. And also, there is recently evidence building around adherence in older people. It is known that adherence to medications in younger cohorts improves outcomes, but there is some evidence which is showing that if you push adherence in elderly people, actually you worsen outcomes because they're overprescribed. So if you push overprescribed prescription to an elderly, you probably increase the risk of hospitalization. So this is a recent evidence which is building up. So therefore, we didn't want to design a robot which was simply reminding and pushing adherence. And we wanted to build a different model, which was more looking around safety as well as adherence. So therefore, use of simple pill boxes and simple reminder systems are not enough because they're simply looking at adherence, not at safety issues. So can we look at some of the safety issues? And also, if we give these older people mobile phones or reminder systems, the usability of mobile phones and desktop computers because of shaky hands, vision difficulties, arthritic fingers, they find them difficult. Usability challenges exist. But all this shows that there is a room for innovation. And if there is a room for innovation, does our innovative idea hold some value? So this is what we wanted to test. So I must refer to my earlier work because this paper depends on this earlier work. Before starting the designing of the actual hardware and software modules, we looked at what should be the theoretical framework which should inform design of technologies, especially towards self-care and medication compliance or adherence in older people. And we interviewed about 5 patients and relatives, healthcare providers, geriatricians, sociologists, psychologists, about 10 experts, and we collated about 12 hours of data and did a qualitative study, grounded theory analysis, and arrived at themes and theories at the end of analysis of entire interview process. And these are the 4 themes that came out while talking to the expert, is that the system should be safe, it should also look at adverse events, it should be usable by older people, it should promote collaboration between providers and patients, and patient's voice should be heard, and also keeping in the center the patient. So it's an empowerment model. We should not design a robot that walks into a 70-year-old person's room and says, hey, take your medications now. So this would be a disempowering concept. Whereas if we design robots for future, which are actually assistants, and which actually empower the user to make decisions, they give them knowledge, give them information, give them the power to make choices and assist them in making choices, is perhaps the model for future. Then we moved on to the next research cycle, and we did establish that an automated dialogue which was delivered through the screen of this robot, as you've seen in the video earlier, which is also written as well as spoken dialogue. So in the video, you saw the video, I did the speech, but in our trials, the robot talks in a robotic voice, of course, and also the information is displayed, and there are small, actually good visible buttons that they can choose to indicate their responses. So we did establish, and we found that such a system is usable by people on an average age of 82.6 years, ranging between 76 to 94 years old people. So 10 people we tested on this, and they found it useful and usable. So then all of them successfully completed the session, and the results are published in earlier publications. An Australasian User Interface Conference and American Medical Informatics Association Symposium this year. This paper is about the Action Research Cycle 3. We now know that there is a dialogue system and there is a robotic hardware that can assist older people. We have found that it is usable. We know the theoretical framework underpinning it. How does it work over a period of time? When they have to repeatedly, every day, they have to repeatedly interact with the same robot. How does it work? And on top of that, in addition to usability, can we build the theory, can we bring in the possibility of collaboration? Can we bring in the possibility of user empowerment by providing medication education? Can we bring in safety by screening for side effects and also measuring of vital signs? So we did test it on a residential aged care facility in Auckland, and we chose 6 participants, 83 to 92 years old, mean age of 80.5 years. 3 were males, 3 were females, and they all had different ways of personalizing and organizing their medications. Some of them were in sachets, pill boxes, and loose strips and bottles, as they call it. So the dialogue, just to give a little bit magnified view of the screen, there is back and quit buttons at the top of the screen. I don't know if you can see that clearly. And there is a big section in white where the dialogue is displayed, and there are 3 large buttons which they can just touch and respond to. The theory being that most older people, though may not be able to use mobile phones and computers, but all of them use ATM machines. So the touchscreen usability was found valid for them. And there is a speaker which also speaks. So this compensates for deficiency in terms of if somebody is unable to see because of macular degeneration or whatever reason, they can hear the dialogue. If somebody is having a hearing problem, they can read the dialogue. So it's a dual output system. Now, in this trial, we linked the robot-based dialogue, which reminded a person to take medications and also asked them about important side effects, to a patient portal, which we called as RoboGen. Now, the medication management module, which is on the robot, it reads prescription from the RoboGen, which is in real world, it could be tomorrow a EMR or a pharmacy management system. So this prescription is read. No prescription is stored on the robot itself. It reads in the real time because prescription may change by the time the next day's reminder has happened. So it reads from the web, and then it customizes its dialogue and then speaks the dialogue. And then when the process is completed, the data is sent back and logged into that web-based portal. So there is a direct connectivity between a healthcare provider and the robot in real time. And this is the screen of RoboGen, which a physician or a pharmacist would see. And here you can see that there is a list of medications, and there is a list of timings, and which medication on which time, and there is a calendar. And if the patient takes the medication, it goes a green tick. If the robot doesn't know, it is a question mark. If the patient refuses to take the medication, it's a cross. So here we are saying we will not push adherence, but patient has a choice. If he doesn't want to take the medication, let him say no. At least the healthcare provider would know that the patient is not choosing to take medication, and then we can talk about it in our consultation. But in current time, there is consultation for 5 or 10 minutes at the interval of 3 months. And in this 5-minute consultation, a 70 or 80-year-old person, I don't know how much he will remember about the 3 months experience with drugs and be able to report. And on basis of that, next 3 months decision is made. So if we can open this information window to the doctor, so they can see within these 5 minutes what has happened to the patient in last 3 months. And this is only the list of medications. The newer versions of this software have got vital signs and also query for side effects, which are also displayed in the series. So here's just to give an example, that this is the language of the doctor on the right-hand side. The doctor writes a prescription. And here's the language in which the robot speaks. So in order to convert this language into a dialogue, a meaningful dialogue, there are a lot of things that we need to understand and pick up from this prescription. So the name is picked up, the timing is picked up. So if 1 tablet every morning, and this morning means 8:30 a.m. for John, because John has told me I take my morning medications at 8 o'clock. So John can customize 8 o'clock means morning, and when it is 8:30 a.m. or the breakfast time medications, the robot reads the prescription that it is in a sachet format. These are the pills there are, and this is what the person has to do. So this is a pretty clever way of converting a prescription into a user interface or into a user-friendly dialogue, which a lay person can understand and follow at the right time, the right medication, with the right route. So when we designed this, after designing this interface and two-way collaboration between a website and the robot, we tested this on the 6 participants, and the methods we used was video recording while they were interacting with the robot. And post 7 days or 2 weeks of interactions, we gave them a questionnaire, and also I conducted a structured interview with them to find out what was their experience and how did it go, and what more suggestions they would give, because it's an iterative process where, when a principle of participatory design, we're involving the users in the design of the system which they will use in future. So it's not my design that I'm pushing on somebody else, but they are participating in their own design. So it's a participatory design. And also we took field notes. So this was a qualitative study, and the results of video analysis showed us that most of the users, all 6 users, out of 9 out of possible 14 interactions, they didn't want the robot to visit them and wake them up in the morning on Sundays and Saturdays. So excluding that, and we must remember that a researcher and a team of engineers was also working with the robot to do this research. So it's quite stressful for an 8-year-old to be woken up at 8:30 in the morning and a whole army of researchers along with the robot knocking on the door just because they want their data for their PhD. So. But nonetheless, they were helpful, and they helped us in most of the interactions. And they did confirm that the prescription that the doctor wrote for them, the robot rightly prescribed and pronounced the prescribed medications. And they had a little bit of difficulty in first 1 or 2 days, but from 3 days onwards, they were up to speed. Even if I was not there, they would simply play with the robot and do what they had to do. So it just takes them 3 or 4 interactions at the age of 80 years to learn how to use this robot. So if we believe that older people can't use technology, this research tries to contest that and says that no, it's not true. Older people can use technology if you design it for them. And of course, one of them, it was single incidents out of these total of about what? 42 or 48 interactions. There was one incident we actually picked up an adverse event where the patient had an adverse event and she reported it. And it was reported back to the physician portal. And of course, some of the lessons we learned about the hardware technology, that technology is not yet robust enough to fulfill the dream on a daily basis, so there were some technical errors for our engineering colleagues to solve. After each interactions, they were asked to rate on a questionnaire, what do you feel about this interaction today? And they could range on a scale from 1 to 4, which from 1 to 4 is excellent, 1 is poor. And as you can see, on first 2 days, the ratings were on the lower side, but third day onwards, the ratings went up, so that people were actually enjoying playing with the robot when they learned about it. So this is another, there's another information which is not included in the slides, where we also measured psychomotor properties as to how long does it take for them to complete this session. And we found that after third day, the time to complete the session significantly dropped. So that means they can learn and they can become faster within 3 or 4 days. And they like it. When I conducted the interview, these were the major themes that I asked them. Was your prescription information on the robot correct? And out of 6, 5 said yes, 1 said no. Not sure, because she was not very sure about what the prescription medications mean. And probably this person was on a sachet, and sachet tends to take all the names of pills away. Don't worry about what you're taking, just take these 5 pills, open the package and take these 5 pills. So probably she would not know what is there in this packet. So this is, it improves adherence and compliance, but it is in a way disempowering to the patient, but it's, the clinicians make the judgment, what is right for the patient at that point in time. And if I asked them, did you access the medication education module? Because there was a button which said, tell me more about this medication. And I showed them at the beginning of the session that here you can access your information, what is there in your pouch or pill. You can just read about your pills. Here is this medication information, but it is potential option. If you choose to, you can choose it. None of them chose it. So I came back with the learning that if you just give them an information option, people don't access it. If you just give them a drug leaflet, people don't read it. So the design implication for us in future are that instead of passive option, it should be built into an interactive dialogue. So we need to redesign our medication education dialogue system. Did the robot help you remember your medications? Yes, all of them said yes. And of course, the list goes on. Some of it is in the paper. And some of the comments were that they really enjoyed interacting with the robot. And the last one said that my grandson thinks it's a hoot that grandma is doing robot research. I found it quite entertaining and look forward to the visit each morning. So it was an encouraging interaction. And the observations were that automated dialogues can correctly read from the prescription, they can correctly inform the patient, participants can correctly and successfully complete the task, and satisfaction ratings are good. These are the simple observations, again reiterating that participants enjoyed, task performance time improved, and we had to redesign our education module, and they did not find the scientific monitoring questions noticeable or intrusive. So that's an interesting thing, because initially, mostly we think that if we ask them about side effects, we might scare patients. But in this case, we didn't find it to be true. So significance. This research helps us to develop a little bit more understanding about how patients personalize their medications and how do they use it in their life. Because in the clinic, we just give them a prescription and expect them to understand and use it the way we intend it. But the patients do a lot of things as they follow it on their own. And this research also demonstrates a method as to how this can be made possible. The limitations of this research are that it's a small sample size, it's a qualitative research, and presence of a researcher and the team of engineers every morning going with the researcher might have influenced our results. And the future work is that lesson learned in this phase would inform the next phase of next module design, which we have already designed and tested, but I'm not presenting it in this research. And where we actually left the robot with the patient for 7 days without researcher being present. So in conclusion, it is possible to create such a system. Older people can navigate through such a system, and we can unobtrusively query side effects if we design the questions smartly, and merely providing an option to access drug information is not enough. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Oh, we have time for a few questions.
So it's really great that you included a new system for the elderly person to say, no, I don't want to take that medication. But realistically, elderly people, they don't like to be confrontational and say no. So
Yes.
what they might probably do is, instead of taking the medication they don't want to take, they might take the pill, and it looks like they're taking that medication. So do you screen for every medication to make sure that they're actually taking the right pill?
Well, that's a good question. Actually, the objective verification of medication intake is yet to be developed, because we are still relying on subjective verifications. So what we do is, for the research sake, when the person is taking medications, there is a small video clip that is recorded during that session. So we take consent for that. We're not just doing it behind the scenes. So we do record a video clip, and looking at that video clip as a researcher, I can see whether they said to the robot that I took it, but on the video did they take it or not. So, but I didn't find it to be true. When they said take it, I took it, they took it. So but it might be different in a real world situation. But still, we want to leave this option open with the patient. The choice is open. Yes.
How much does the robot cost?
Currently, it's not out in the market, but our hope and ambition is that anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000, it should be able to fit the budget of somebody who can afford a rest home.
Just one more follow-on question. In terms of a rest home setting, how many, presumably it doesn't have stairs, obviously, so
Yes.
you have one on the floor. How long would it take to get around, say, 40 residents in a rest home to do a round?
Yeah. Yeah. This was the earlier thought when we started with the earlier design, that one robot will remind multiple people. But as we iterated and as we came across all these practical problems, now the solution is one robot for one person. So it remains static in their apartment, doesn't move around, and it just sings and dances, calls for their attention, and helps them with the medication. So it's on the kitchen table top. Yeah.
Was really interesting presentation. Now I'm just wondering, as a clinician, I think part of the objectives of a robot would be to save clinician time.
Yes.
And did you look at the average time spent for the clinician in analysing the data and checking blood results? Is that actually much different to having that patient in front of you for 10 or 15 minutes? Just when you said it sent back to the nurse that the
Yes.
medication's taken, I was thinking, well, that's quite a lot of micro information that a normal
Yes.
practice nurse might not be interested in.
Yes.
So, yeah, I was just curious, the clinician time.
Yes, yes. And we have had a discussion around that. And this iteration, we were just logging the information. The next iteration, we are trying to take out the flags. So I don't need to know whether if everything was all right, but I need to know if there was anything wrong. So just raise the flag to me. So that's the next iteration that we are building. Yes.
Because I thought that came to mind this thing is I wondered if the patient's support network, whether it was a family member,
Yes.
a daughter or someone, I think they're often key people who
Yes.
take care of that day-to-day stuff.
Yes.
So I wonder if building in emails to that
Yes.
patient support group
Yes.
would be a useful aspect of the technology.
That's a great suggestion, because this RoboGen that I talked about, it's very easy to give the family member an access through a secure login password, so they can log in and see in real time. Oh, grandma has taken her medication this morning. Oh, good. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
You didn't describe how difficult it was to get the robots off patients once you finished the trial.
Well, Bart has been very helpful with us, because he's been key guiding force in this research while we were doing it at his place. When we were trying to take the robot away after 7 days, they said, "Oh, well, why do you want to take it away? Please leave it with us." So I asked why. Because she very serious face she made and said, "Look, in this rest home, there is something that I can play with and spend my time about." So it's about isolation, social relationships, and having a toy to play with that you seemingly believe that it's going to care for you.
All right. Well, Priyesh, it's also
Yes.
co-author's prerogative.
It's interesting that you say that people don't want the robot to go away because then they start to feel isolated again. Because one of the first questions that was asked when we began this research project was, patients are going to become isolated because of the robot. The humans are going to stop paying attention to them because the robot's there. And now the people who are using the robots in their own homes are saying, we don't want the robot to go away because we will become isolated when you
Yes.
take it away.
And another comment that comes to my mind on that, Karen, is I don't want a personal caregiver to knock on my door every morning and tell me what to do. I would rather prefer a robot to ring a bell and tell me what to do. And suppose if I have to go out tomorrow morning to visit my granddaughter, I don't have to call a caregiver and tell her that I'm going. I can just switch off the robot and go.
Now, Priyesh is also in the running for the best student paper, so once again, we'll be measuring the decibel level. Thank you.
Thank you.